I've been working on the game intro. Before we begin, I wanted to mention that I've had a number of unexpected setbacks in the past couple months, so I wasn't really able to put the time into the project that I've been planning on or wanted to. But, hey, I'm no longer sick and my computer turns on again, so things are really looking up. I also bought a mic, so at the very least this devlog should sound better. Well, that's enough of me feeling sad and guilty. It's important to be positive, and moving forward is what we're gonna do. So let's take a look at the game intro now. The game intro takes place in and around the small town of Chicory. This area won't be randomized like the main portion of the game, but serves as a static area filled with notable characters and landmarks that'll help get the player familiar with the game and introduced to the story and mechanics. Like a tutorial area. There's also unlockables and secrets that you can find and carry over to the main part of the game if you can find them. I want to reward players that poke around and have fun, and also, even though this is kind of the intro to the game, the tutorial area, it still needs to be fun, exciting, and have something for players to do besides having their handheld the entire time. But let's focus on the story a little bit first. Okay, so as of now, I've set up a quick and functional intro storyline, and it's possible to take the player from start to finish, but it's got a lot of ways to go in terms of being fleshed out. The NPC scripts are pretty rough right now, and I need to make a lot more character sprites, but the skeleton of the intro area is there, and you can technically get through it. The story begins by having your character wake up at home. They have a job in town that they hate working at, and a boss that's very, very strange, and they live at home with their mother in a small house on the outskirts of town. Unfortunately for our game's hero, their mother views them as a disappointing failure. But don't feel too bad yet, because everyone in town also hates them. It's rough being our character. They didn't do anything to deserve any of this hate, but everyone sure loves to express it. And some people may even put you directly in harm's way. Okay, I really like this setup because it gives an easy motive for your character to want to leave town, leave everyone behind, and go on a grand adventure. No regrets. The secondary reason that I really like this setup is that it gives a great opportunity to have some potentially hilarious interactions between the player and those around. Anyway, as the story progresses, you're going to head into town and end up at work and do your whole job. But towards the end of the day, your boss will come in and demand that you enter the forest to retrieve a specific item. And in classic game fashion, this happens to be in the evening, and monsters come out in the forest at night. I'm sure you can see where this is going. There's going to be a few events that take place in the forest, but the important one to note is that you're going to run into a very particular person in need of some help. And this person, once you save them from a monster, will give you an opportunity to enter a contest that your character won't be able to refuse, even as far-fetched as it sounds. All you have to do is win a scavenger hunt, and you will be given your own land far away and become a lord all of your own. The possibilities of instant respect and getting away from this town will be too good for your character to refuse. There is one catch, though. To enter this contest, you're going to need to have a partner, which means somebody from this town will have to willingly join you, and as I've pointed out before, nobody likes your character. And from there, you're going to have to do some things for people and do your best to convince somebody to join you from all of these people that dislike you so very, very much. There will be multiple possible people to choose from, and the person that you end up taking with you will have an impact on the next phase of the game, which is the scavenger hunt. I think this is a good time to bring up some of the mechanics that you'll encounter in the intro area of the game. There are 3 new mechanics that I've set up for this. One is returning, but it's needed again, so it's kind of partially new. Let's start with that one. The day-night system. The day-night system is back, and as I may have mentioned before, this is just one of my favorite standard features in games. But with this coming back, I've been working on making more things in the game respond to day and night. This includes making each house's sprite having both day and night appearances, as well as adding in some lighting effects. I want to have more things change visually based off the time of day, like mushrooms that glow at night, or having some NPCs carry torches. I just really like games with day-night cycles, and it gives a nice dynamic feeling to everything in the game, especially the more things you have interacting with day and night. And again, it adds to that game feel, and I really like having a good game feel, and I also really like nighttime scenes. There's a quest system now too. We have quests now, and as of right now, all the quests are pre-set up for the intro area. I'm excited to experiment with randomly generated quests later on, but for now it's not needed, so I'm going to wait until that is needed. The cool thing about this quest system is that with each step I can create an on-screen notification for the player. While this can just be the title of the quest or the general concept of the quest and what needs to be done, I like to give specific orders with these sometimes in order to invoke some feeling or just to be kind of funny, without detracting from the game or what you're supposed to do, of course. I won't spoil the context for what's happening right here, but you probably want to avoid seeing this one pop up. And cutscenes. There are two types of cutscenes. The first one is more commonly used in other games where everyone loses movement and the game script controls what each character does, where they look, and where they move. Not only do I have that, but I now have a second type as well, which is more like the banter mechanic in Octopath Traveler. The screen goes black and the focus goes on certain characters and conversations. I really like this for seeing a character's inner thoughts or putting that added focus on a conversation. This also has the added bonus of being a little more easily used in randomly generated areas down the line where I won't necessarily know where to move characters based on the rooms that will be created on the fly. Of those three mechanics, cutscenes are definitely the most difficult I found to implement, but now that they're in, I think they're pretty good and will serve the purpose that this game needs. I want to take a little bit to talk about some of the room improvements that I've been implementing over time that I don't think I've mentioned before. For instance, there's a darker shade of grass on each of these areas, and I'm sure you've noticed this before, but generally speaking, this serves as a new boundary for the player and enemies not to cross. And I created this entirely because there's a lot of trees in the forest area, and enemies especially loved getting behind the taller trees, hiding from view, and just sitting there forever. And it was getting super frustrating not knowing where enemies were, and sometimes they'd just leap out and it'd be hard to react to them. But this darker grass has the added benefit of letting me set up easy to see room layouts with just a darker color saying, hey, nobody can go here, and then later on I can go in and fill in trees or forest or anything else that needs to go in there. But it makes everything look a little bit nicer too. I really like how this darker grass kind of looks like it's shaded by the taller trees, and of course I no longer have to just make areas walled off by 50,000 repeating trees or water everywhere. And I don't think anyone else saw things this way, but after a while, when you keep putting trees everywhere like this, I stop seeing the trees. I don't see the forest. I just see an enclosed maze of walls. And I don't know if anyone else saw this, but once you start seeing this as just, fake walls that look like trees, it's really hard to go back. Interiors are getting some work too, mostly because I didn't have anything. And I'm just now taking a stab at how I want them to look. Earlier I was going with like the top-down 2D Zelda style where you could see all four walls at once, but it didn't really pan out the way I wanted it to, so I'm switching back more towards the conventional view that the overworld has. And with that, I've been going back and forth on the size of some of the set pieces, like this bookshelf. It looks fine, but larger looks pretty great too, and gives a lot more opportunity for details and different types of bookshelves and different book arrangements, and even if I want to have some bookshelves maybe having a one of those books that you pull and it opens a secret passage, it'd be a lot easier to make that stand out as something to go look at with a larger sprite than the smaller ones. This does, of course, make it so that the walls look a little short for the room, but I still kind of like it. I don't know. I'm sure you can tell I'm leaning towards the bigger items, but we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. My favorite new room. This is my favorite new room. It doesn't really do anything, and it doesn't serve much of a purpose. It looks nice, but it's basically just a stretch of land that connects the player's house to the town. And I really just put this in because I felt like everything was too close together and it didn't feel right, in a sense. The game feel was completely broken by everything being on top of itself. So I created this little pathway here initially, and it's amazing. Not only is it kind of nice and just a fun little walkway, but this really adds a lot in terms of making the area for the player's house and the town feel more substantial because this area is not substantial. And I don't know why, I kind of just wanted to bring this up because it's this little connective area here that I think really ties a lot of the intro area together. There's another connective area up by the forest as well too, and I think having these areas that are just kind of pathways that aren't super important really help increase the weight and value of the areas that I want to have weight and value. Okay, so coming up next. There are two things that I want to focus on coming up next. The first is polish. There's a lot of things that have been bugging me that I've just kind of been waiting on because it wasn't super important, but as I've made it this far into the project, I feel like this is a great time to reintroduce the player to having the dust particles when they walk, fixing the weird shadow that looks like a square under the character, which I have no idea what's causing that. adding more lighting effects, some bells and whistles, making the NPCs, well, making more NPCs, making some more enemies, just doing a lot of stuff to really enhance the feel and look and just making everything better. I will also be working on the scavenger hunt area, which is the second portion of the game that takes place in between this introduction area and the main part of the world where everything is randomly generated. The scavenger hunt area is going to be really fun. There's going to be a lot more combat introduced, and a lot more mechanics in the game will be available to the player. I'm also going to start introducing some of the new mechanics that I haven't been able to talk about yet that I'm very excited to get going. One of which you may have guessed involves the partner that you have selected for the scavenger hunt contest in the first area here. So look forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just really mostly glad that I'm no longer sick and not experiencing any unfortunate computer issues. So very excited, very thrilled. There should be a lot more coming very soon. So stay tuned for that. And thanks everyone for sticking through this. And I'll see you all in the next one.